I died 1 month after getting married. I choked to death on a candy that my husband Cain forced into my mouth. After I died, my soul floated in the air and watched Cain get together with my best friend Delilah. They happily took over my family's property. It was only then that I realized that they had also killed my parents. I watched them standing by the bedside and laughing crazily at me. This fat bitch actually thought I fell in love with her. Hilarious. Cain disgustedly wanted to kick my corpse. Delilah stopped him. What are you doing? Do you want to be suspected by the police? Only then did Cain hold back. You go out first. I'll tidy up the things here, Delilah said while wearing gloves. Cain kissed Delilah. I'll leave it to you. Don't leave any traces. Delilah giggled and said, I know. Hurry up and go out. Delilah was a forensic doctor. How ironic. It was me who paid for her to study. I didn't expect that she would go crazy and hook up with my husband. I watched Delilah clean up the scene and take out a familiar bottle from the drawer. Delilah looked at the bottle and smiled, then looked at my corpse. She's as stupid as a pig. I stared fixedly at that bottle. It was the vitamins that Delilah gave me. Suddenly, I understood why I had suddenly gained so much weight. My face twisted with rage as I wanted to tear Delilah apart, but then I found that my soul was dissipating. I roared unwillingly. It hurt so much that I was woken up by the sudden pain. I opened my eyes and saw several students gathered around. Classmate Ava, are you okay? The boy looked at me worriedly but didn't dare to approach me. I looked at the familiar face, so delicate and handsome. In my previous life, I was so bewitched by Cain. Otherwise, how could I have overlooked this Quentin in front of me? Classmate Ava. Quentin waved his hand in front of me. I suddenly came to my senses, my face blushing a little. I'm okay. I wanted to run away and find a quiet place to sort out my thoughts, but Quentin stopped me. Classmate Ava, I'll take you to the infirmary. Quentin took me to the infirmary. I looked at the familiar yet strange path along the way and the classmates. I secretly pinched my thigh again. Ouch! I frowned in pain. I really was reborn. Hearing my voice, Quentin's worry between his brows grew even heavier. The infirmary is almost here. Otherwise, let me carry you on my back. Seeing him about to bend down, I was so startled that I quickly said, No, no. I'm heavy. I can carry 3 of you. Come on. Quentin turned his head to look at me. The corners of his mouth slightly curled up and there were bright and warm glimmers in his eyes. I froze on the spot, forgetting that I hadn't gained weight yet and wasn't a fat woman weighing over 200 pounds. Seeing that I didn't respond, Quentin directly carried me on his back and walked quickly towards the infirmary. The vitality of the young man rushed into my gloomy heart, making something start to sprout in my heart again. It was vitality as well as rebirth. After having my wound checked in the infirmary, it was a mild concussion. I couldn't help looking at the young man beside me. Suddenly, there was a noisy sound. Ava, how are you? What would I do if something happened to you? At the door, I heard Delilah's insincere shouts. She didn't know that I had died in my previous life. I frowned. Quentin, who had been standing quietly beside me, walked out. The noise outside stopped. Delilah walked in with red eyes. Ava, how are you? I sneered in my heart. In my previous life, I was actually deceived by such a person. That's right. Others, seeing her like this, would think that we were good little sisters with a deep bond. Little did they know that she was a vicious woman. I forced a smile. I'm okay. I just got hit by a ball. Delilah took my hand and said tearfully, You scared me to death. I rushed over as soon as I heard you were in trouble. I sneered in my heart. Just listening to her words, one would surely think that she was nice. But when you looked at her eyes, there wasn't a trace of worry in them. Instead, there was a hint of smugness. It was only after I died in my previous life that I learned that Delilah was jealous of me. She was jealous that my family was wealthy and that I was beautiful. And it didn't matter that I was beautiful. I was also excellent in the past. So she found Cain when I was in senior year of high school, wanting to make me addicted to love. Unexpectedly, I didn't neglect my studies even when I was in a relationship. In the end, she could only make me gain weight and hit me in terms of appearance. At that time, I was verbally attacked by the people around me and was so demoralized that I didn't go to Tsinghua University but went to an ordinary university with Kane. Delilah cried in front of me, saying that her father was going to make her drop out of school. I couldn't bear it and sent her to Harvard University to study medicine, which she liked. Now, looking at her hypocritical appearance, I also felt stupid of myself. I asked my parents to give Delilah a $1 million scholarship, and she used the knowledge she learned to kill my parents. After crying for a while, Delilah found that I didn't comfort her. She took a look at me and was scared by my cold eyes. "Ava, why are you looking at me like that?" Delilah asked timidly. I came to my senses, blinked my eyes, and replied gently, "I was just in a daze." "What did you just say?" I asked with a smile. Delilah looked at me carefully again and didn't find anything unusual. "I said you scared me to death." "Who hit you?" "I'll help you scold him." Delilah looked around and finally saw Quentin by the wall. She shyly lowered her eyes. She asked Quentin in a delicate voice, "Was it you who hit Ava?" Quentin's face was cold. He was completely different from when he carried me on his back just now. He simply replied, "Yes." "Classmate Quentin, Ava hates people like you the most. You'd better apologize to Ava properly." Delilah seemed not to see Quentin's cold face and flirted with him coquettishly. In my previous life, I was so dizzy from being hit that I didn't pay attention to their conversation. This incident was the reason why I was scolded when I gained weight and no one stood up for me. Looking at the classmates watching outside the door, Delilah was still creating hatred for me. "Ava has always looked down on us. She's a rich young lady. It's our honor that she studies here with us. We should be grateful. Hurry up and apologize to Ava, or she'll be angry." Delilah gave me a look with a frightened expression. The other classmates were looking at me with disgust at this moment. But this time, I won't give Delilah the chance to set me up. "Delilah, how could you do this? I've already told classmate Quentin that it's okay. I'm very grateful that he sent me to the infirmary. How can you just say that I hate my classmates? If I hated my classmates, would I tutor those with poor grades?" I looked at Delilah sadly. With the wound on my forehead, no one would not believe me. Quentin also said coldly at this time, "Classmate Delilah is really strange. Classmate Ava hasn't said anything, yet you know that she hates me. Are you a mind reader of hers?" The classmates outside the door also whispered, "That's right. It's been Delilah talking all along. Isn't she ruining Ava's reputation like this?" Delilah's face turned pale all of a sudden. She rushed nervously in front of me. "Ava, I was wrong just now. I was also so worried about you that I lost my head. Okay. Don't do this again next time, and don't talk about other classmates like that, okay?" I said gently. The disgust in Delilah's eyes grew even stronger. Her lowered eyelashes covered her thoughts. "Got it." I looked at Quentin. "Classmate Quentin, I'm okay now. You can go back first. Class is about to start. Have a good rest. I'll come over after class." Quentin's eyes softened a bit as he looked at me. I smiled slightly and saw Delilah's fingers, which were turning white from pinching, out of the corner of my eye. "Delilah, you should go back too." Delilah looked at me with red eyes and said reluctantly, "Then I'll go to class first." I just smiled without saying anything and lay down to rest. Delilah quickly followed Quentin and went out. Watching them leave, I could finally think quietly about what to do next. Kane will show up in these few days. They'll team up to deceive me. This time, I'll definitely make them reap what they've sown. I called my dad and asked him to come and pick me up. Seeing my dad's face, I couldn't help but my eyes became red. In my previous life, after I gained weight, I was always irritable and didn't want to talk to my parents. Later, my parents were tricked by Kane to go traveling and were killed in a foreign country. I was still blaming my parents until I died. I was really unfilial. "Ava, why are you crying? Tell Dad who bullied you." Dad looked at me nervously and looked at my wound with a distressed expression. "Dad, give me a hug." I opened my arms and looked at him. Dad hugged me at once and comforted me. "Dad is here. Tell Dad who bullied you and Dad will beat him up for you. No one. I was just hit by a ball. I missed you and Mom so much, I said while sobbing. Dad felt even more distressed. He thought I was under a lot of pressure from studying. Ava, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just do your best. Okay. Let's go home. I want to eat the food Mom cooked. I wiped away my tears and pulled myself together. Dad will take you home. Dad will buy whatever you want to eat, Dad said generously. Dad took me to the mall and bought lots of snacks and food for dinner. We went home happily and saw Mom waiting for us at the door. I ran over cheerfully, Mom. In my heart, I said the words that I didn't dare to say out loud. I missed you so much. Mom looked at my wound with distress. How are you feeling now? Are you dizzy? Do we need to go to the hospital to have a look? I'm okay, Mom. It's just a scratch. It's not that serious. I acted coquettishly while holding Mom's hand. Mom, I'm hungry. Mom dotingly tapped my nose, little foodie. You only think about eating when you get home. Who made Mom's cooking so delicious? I didn't get to eat it when I was at school. I pouted like before, for fear that my parents would notice something unusual. Mom smiled happily and I followed her to the kitchen. Oh, you go and rest. Mom will call you when it's done. Mom quickly shooed me to the living room. Ava, you go and rest. I'll help Mom cook. Dad squeezed into the kitchen. My eyes were watery. I blinked my eyes, not wanting the tears to fall. I was reluctant to leave, so I sat at the bar beside the kitchen and chatted with them. Then I saw a message from Delilah. Ava, why did you go home? I've been waiting for you all along. I sneered. In my previous life, Delilah had always hitched a ride in my family's car. At that time, I didn't care. I just thought it wasn't a big deal to give her a ride home since her home was far away. It was only later that I learned that she took advantage of my dad giving her a ride home and told others outside that it was out of family affection and used my dad's name to attract investments. She can forget about it from now on. In the morning when I went to school, Dad insisted on driving me to school. I originally wanted to refuse, but then I thought of something and didn't refuse. I directly took Dad's Maybach to school. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Quentin and Delilah at the school gate. Delilah had her back to me and I didn't know what she was talking about with Quentin, but I was certain that she was definitely trying to flirt with Quentin. Because I saw that Quentin's face was gloomy and he looked impatient, yet he didn't leave as if he was waiting for someone. Quentin's eyes caught sight of me and he smiled slightly, then walked towards me. Classmate Ava, I brought you breakfast. Quentin handed me a bag of steamed dumplings. I took a look at the dumplings in my hand and found that they were from my favorite place. I looked at him in a good mood and said, "Thank you, classmate Quentin. You can just call me Ava." I glanced at Delilah behind me out of the corner of my eye. Sure enough, she was looking at me with jealous eyes, and as soon as she saw my gaze, her expression immediately changed. Okay, just use my first name then. Quentin's bright and piercing eyes made me feel a bit shy. Delilah then squeezed in front of Quentin and took my arm. Ava, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for so long. While saying that, she pulled me away. I smiled faintly, knowing that she didn't want me to have any more contact with Quentin. I turned my head and waved at Quentin, and then was pulled away by Delilah. Without Quentin around, I only felt disgusted and angry towards Delilah. I had treated her sincerely, but she had set me up. I clenched my palm tightly to control my fluctuating emotions. On my face, I still had to pretend to be gentle and kind. By the way, my brother has also transferred to our school. Let's have lunch together at noon and get to know him. Delilah said with a smile. Finally, here it comes. I smiled indifferently, sure. I was about to go and get food when Delilah pushed me to sit at the dining table and wait. Ava, my brother and I will go get the food. You stay here and save the seats. Delilah then went to the front to get the food. I hadn't seen Zephyr yet. While I was looking for him, I saw Quentin coming over with 2 dinner plates. Quentin placed one in front of me. I saw that you hadn't gotten your food yet, so I got it for you. Looking at his handsome face, my lack of appetite just disappeared. I smiled sweetly and saw that they were all my favorites. Thank you. The two dishes are different. Let's share them. Quentin's cool and perfect side profile looked even more elegant in the sunlight. Okay. I picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork tenderloin. It tasted just as good as before and was so delicious that I couldn't help but close my eyes slightly. Quentin couldn't help but laugh when he saw me. My face flushed slightly. It was all because the food was too delicious. Sorry, you're just so cute that I couldn't help laughing. Quentin's deep and magnetic voice rang out. I was just about to say something when I saw Zephyr and Delilah and couldn't help but my eyes turned cold. Quentin followed my gaze and looked over, but didn't say anything. He moved a bit and sat down beside me. Seeing this scene, Delilah's smile froze on her face. She slammed the dinner plate onto the table. Ava, I already bought you food. Why did you let classmate Quentin buy it again? Before I could say anything, Delilah complained again, your behavior is really bad. It's a waste of food and it also makes classmate Quentin uncomfortable. At this time, Quentin's cold voice rang out, I bought the food for Ava. I didn't see you just now, so I bought it first. Is that not okay? No, if Ava had said something first, this wouldn't have happened. Delilah looked at Quentin with a pitiful expression. Anyone who didn't know the situation would think that I was taking advantage of her. Zephyr quickly spoke up when he saw the situation, it's okay. It's just an extra portion. We can just share it. Hello, classmate Ava. I'm Zephyr, Delilah's brother. You can come to me if you have any problems in the future. Zephyr had an air of scholarship about him, just like a friendly neighbor's older brother. In my previous life, I was deceived by his gentlemanly appearance. I looked at him with my innocent big eyes. Hello, Senior Zephyr. Delilah couldn't continue to dwell on what had just happened at this time. She pulled her brother to sit in front of me and she sat in front of Quentin. Ava, I know you're wealthy, but you can't waste like this next time, okay? Delilah said sincerely. I'll help Ava get food from now on until Ava's wound heals. There's no need for classmate Delilah to do it. Quentin looked at me and said, ignoring Delilah's frozen face across from him. Then I'll trouble you. I smiled charmingly. Looking at the dishes that the siblings got, they were all vegetarian dishes. In my previous life, I was deceived and couldn't bear it, so I gave Delilah my meal card. Delilah's family sent them to this elite school just to make friends with wealthy people. After paying the tuition fees, they didn't have much money left. After Delilah and her brother got to know me, they ate and drank with my money and plotted against me. Now I wanted to eat meat and watch them eat vegetables. I picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork tenderloin and couldn't help but glance at Quentin's sweet and sour spare ribs beside me. Quentin said in a pleasant voice, if you want to eat it, just take some. Then I won't be polite. I picked up a piece of sweet and sour spare ribs and took a satisfying bite. Delilah watched me eating meat and wanted to take some of mine as she used to. I blocked her. Delilah, what are you doing? Don't you know that I'm a bit of a germaphobe? Ava, you always shared food with me before. What's wrong? Delilah's tone was soft as if she was scared by me. Before, you used my meal card to buy a lot of food. I only ate one meat dish and one vegetarian dish, and you ate the rest. Classmate Quentin also got one meat dish and one vegetarian dish for me and I don't even have enough to eat. Why do you still want to eat mine? I could play the innocent victim too. I looked at her pitifully. Classmate Delilah, you can just eat the extra portion you got. Quentin's cold voice carried a bit of annoyance. Delilah didn't expect that Quentin would also help me. She reluctantly withdrew her chopsticks. She still didn't give up. She blinked her eyes and looked at Quentin. Classmate Quentin, I also like sweet and sour spare ribs. Can you give me a piece? No. Quentin refused directly. I watched the drama while picking up another piece of sweet and sour spare ribs. Delilah was angry and her face turned red. Ava, how could you do this? Classmate Quentin was just too nice to say anything to you, but you can't bully him like this. Delilah, you're really strange. Classmate Quentin didn't say anything. Who are you to him? I asked curiously. I'm not familiar with her. Don't pay attention to her. Take whatever you want to eat. I don't mind. Quentin said. I raised my eyebrows and looked at Delilah. Zephyr spoke up again at this time. Okay, Delilah, I know you care about Ava too much. Here, Ava, your favorite shredded potatoes. Zephyr was about to put the shredded potatoes into my bowl with his chopsticks. I moved my bowl away. I'm a germaphobe. Zephyr froze for a moment and withdrew his chopsticks. Sorry, I just forgot. I didn't pay attention to him either. After all, we had just met and I couldn't show too much. I happily ate my meal. Soon the college entrance examination will be coming in half a semester. I know that Zephyr is going to lose his patience. Because I didn't fall in love with him and revolve around him like I did in my previous life. As expected, Delilah came with the vitamins that she gave me in my previous life. Ava, these are the vitamins that my mom asked someone to buy. We're under a lot of pressure now and need to take some supplements. Otherwise, many students will perform abnormally in the exam due to the great pressure on the day of the exam. Delilah shared with me in a low voice. I happily held her hand. Delilah, you're so nice. You still think of me. I'm so touched. A look of contempt flashed in Delilah's eyes and she smiled slightly. We're best friends. We must share good things together. Well, I also have something for you, whitening pills. I raised my eyebrows at her. What are whitening pills? Delilah asked in confusion. Aren't you envious that I'm so fair? I'm this fair because I take these Japanese whitening pills. I said proudly. Originally, I didn't want anyone else to know. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have told you. I crossed my arms and pouted. Seeing me like this and knowing that I've always cared a lot about my appearance, Delilah didn't suspect anything. She excitedly took my hand and shook it. I know Ava is the best. All right. I'll give them to you tomorrow. I didn't bring them with me. I patted her hand and took the opportunity to pull my hand back. Delilah left cheerfully. I smiled slightly as I watched her back. When I got home, I put the vitamins Delilah gave me into the bottle of whitening pills. I specifically found pills that were the same as the vitamins she gave me. Delilah would definitely check them when she saw the pills. Sure enough, a look of suspicion flashed in Delilah's eyes when she saw the pills. What's the matter? Don't you like them? Then give them back to me. I reached out my hand, looking dissatisfied to take them back. Delilah dodged. No, it's just that I'm seeing them for the first time and they're quite novel. How long will it take for them to work? Delilah looked into my eyes. 1 week. I said with full confidence. By the way, the college entrance examination is coming soon. My brother has invited us to go out and play together. Delilah put away the whitening pills and said. I frowned. In my previous life, it was after the college entrance examination. This time, it's so much earlier. Forget it. Let's celebrate after the college entrance examination. I said. Delilah pouted and acted coquettishly. Just come with me. I've been so stressed lately that my hair is falling out. I still have a lot of things to talk to you about. Delilah kept holding on to me and wouldn't let go. Just as I was about to agree, I saw Quentin. What are you doing? Quentin said as he looked at me. Delilah and I want to go to Bayou Mountain to play this weekend. Delilah said quickly. Would you mind if I join you? Quentin raised the corners of his mouth and glanced at Delilah. No. This is a gathering for us girls. It's inconvenient for you to join. Delilah refused in a somewhat hurried tone. Isn't your brother going too? Why can't Quentin? I asked innocently. Delilah was at a loss for words. If Quentin can't go, I won't go either. I didn't want to go in the first place. I refused indifferently. No. Delilah shouted out directly when she heard that. I looked at her in surprise. Delilah coughed when she saw my look. Ava, you just agreed to go with me. How can you go back on your word? I didn't say anything and just quietly looked at her. In the end, Delilah had to compromise and let Quentin go with us. See you at the weekend. I turned around and smiled at Quentin, then slowly walked into the classroom. At the weekend, we gathered at the foot of Bayou Mountain. I went there with Quentin. When we got to the foot of the mountain, we saw that Delilah and the others had already arrived. Ava, over here. Delilah waved her hand excitedly. I walked over slowly. Let's go. At first, everything was normal, but as we walked along, the path became more and more remote. There was little sunlight on this side and it was gloomy. Have we gone astray? There's no one here. I asked impatiently. No. My brother has been here before. There's a hot spring up there. Few people know about it. Delilah said excitedly without even turning her head. I felt a bit uneasy in my heart. In my previous life, at this time, Zephyr confessed his love to me and I accepted at that time. Because Delilah kept telling me how good her brother was every day, I thought Zephyr was full of merits at that time. Sure enough, Zephyr came over when we were taking a break. Zephyr's face was slightly red. Ava, I like you. Could you be my girlfriend? I pretended to be stunned for a few seconds. Classmate Zephyr, I just want to study hard right now and don't want to be in a relationship. It won't affect our studies. We can discuss studies together after school. Zephyr obviously wasn't going to give up easily. No. Your grades are just SOSO. What can we discuss? I said with innocent eyes. Poof, Quentin couldn't help laughing. Sorry, please continue. Zephyr's face darkened and he turned around and left. After a while, Delilah came over. Ava, my brother likes you so much. Why did you reject him? Delilah said in a dissatisfied tone. Just because he likes me, do I have to accept him? There are so many people who like me. If I have to accept everyone who likes me, how can I study? I really couldn't understand how her mind worked. Delilah's eyes were full of anger. It's different. My brother is so nice to you. What's the difference between you and a heartless woman by rejecting him like this? You're cheating on his feelings. Nice to me? I couldn't help laughing. Come on, tell me how he's nice to me. I looked down at her. Fine, I'll tell you. My brother goes to your class to chat with you every day after school. And he tells you about his day every day. He also says good morning, good afternoon, and good night to you every day. Look, who else cares about you like this? Delilah said righteously. I laughed. Is that all? Classmate Quentin also buys me food every morning and noon. Compared to your brother who only gives verbal care, should I marry classmate Quentin? I crossed my arms. You. Classmate Quentin doesn't even like you. You're forcing him to agree, Delilah blurted out without thinking when she heard that. You even know what forcing means. Weren't you morally blackmailing me just now? I directly tore off the false appearance and didn't want to argue with this kind of person. Classmate Delilah, forcing others to be your brother's girlfriend like this. Does your brother have something hard to tell? Quentin said in a cold tone and looked at Delilah casually. Don't talk nonsense. Delilah was so angry that she ran away. I sat next to Quentin, thinking about taking a break and then going down the mountain. After a while, I felt something was wrong. The more I rested, the more tired I felt. Then I heard Delilah's scream and saw her running back in a panic. Classmate Quentin, please go and save my brother. He's fallen into a trap. Delilah was in tears. Quentin frowned and glanced at me. Delilah saw it too and said, Ava will be fine here. It's broad daylight. Let's go and save my brother quickly and we'll be back soon. I looked at Delilah's anxious look and it didn't seem fake. You go ahead. I'll wait for you here. They left and the surroundings fell into silence. It was so quiet that even the sound of birds seemed very loud. A flock of birds flew away in panic in the sky. There was a rustling sound coming from the grass in front. My heart tightened and I quietly hid in the grass beside me. The sound in front was getting closer and closer. The grass and trees made a sparse noise as something passed by and then the sound stopped. Where is she? Didn't they say she was here? 3 men were standing at the place where I had just taken a rest. They didn't look like good people at first glance. Look for her. She can't have gone far, a man with a scar on his face said. They separated to look for me. I hid behind and didn't dare to move. After not hearing any sound, I thought I'd go and find Quentin secretly. I walked out quietly, picked up my backpack and was just about to leave when I was startled by a man who jumped out. Ha ha ha, I saw you hiding behind just now. The scar-faced man and the other 2 had evil smiles on their faces. I calmed myself down and backed up to the tree. I wasn't sure before, but from what he said, I was certain that they were looking for me. I don't have any grudges against you. Who hired you? While reaching into my school bag to look for my mobile phone, I tried to buy some time. We don't have a grudge, but it's just your bad luck that we ran into you. The man in gray clothes looked at me with an evil look in his eyes. It's Delilah, right? I said in a certain tone. The man in gray clothes was stunned for a moment and then quickly said loudly, "What, Delilah? We're just here to have some fun. We saw you were alone and wanted to play with you." The two men beside him followed and laughed, slowly approaching me. "Delilah didn't tell you my identity, did she?" I smiled indifferently. The scar-faced man stopped when he saw that I wasn't a bit scared. "We're not curious about your identity. Anyway, after we've had enough fun, we'll take some pictures." "Really?" "I'm Ava," I said. The scar-faced man was stunned for a few seconds. "From the family of the richest man, Victor?" "Yes," I replied calmly. The scar-faced man looked at me and then laughed again. "Then you're our lucky charm. How much do you think your father will give me if I take the pictures to him?" "Only if you're alive to spend it," I said as I looked into his eyes. "I've heard that the richest man, Victor, spoils his daughter. If his beloved daughter is defiled and the pictures are spread out, do you think he dares to take the risk?" The scar-faced man wasn't scared. Instead, he tried to scare me. "He won't take the risk," I said confidently. The three of them laughed. "Because I'll make sure you die a miserable death at all costs," I said in a cold tone which sounded like a vicious curse in the silent space. Their smiles froze. "Really? Then so what? It's an honor to die for a beauty. And we can also drag Miss Ava down with us." "It's a good deal," the scar-faced man said the harshest words. "Really? What about your families?" I smiled evilly. A look of hesitation flashed in the scar-faced man's eyes, and the two boys behind him even took a step back. I intensified my tone. "I only have one life. As for you," I sneered coldly, "how can I be sure that you won't take revenge on us if we let you go?" The scar-faced man asked with a gloomy face. "If you don't touch me, we have no grudges." "Then why would I go looking for trouble?" I said slowly, not daring to relax my vigilance. The scar-faced man thought for a while and waved his hand to signal the two behind him to retreat. At this time, my bodyguards also arrived and quickly protected me. "Wait a minute," I suddenly spoke up and they were startled. "What? Miss Ava, are you going back on your word?" The scar-faced man looked at me warily. "I'll hire you to do something for me," I looked at them calmly. I waited in place with my bodyguards. If it weren't for waiting for Quentin, I wouldn't have stayed here to be bitten by mosquitoes. Quentin ran back and looked at me nervously. I smiled slightly but stopped when I saw Delilah and her brother behind him. "Let's go back," I said to Quentin. "Okay." Quentin didn't ask any more questions and followed me. "Hey, Ava, ask your bodyguard to carry my brother." Delilah saw that my clothes were neat and said through gritted teeth. I turned my head to look at her. "Sure. 1,000 for carrying him down." "Ava, even if you rejected me, you don't have to treat me like this." "I'm already injured," Zephyr said in an incredulous tone. "So you're injured? What then?" "I hired my bodyguards with money. If you want him to carry your brother, just pay him." "It's none of my business." I looked down on him condescendingly. Delilah was so angry that she pointed at me. "My brother got injured because of you. How could you refuse to save him when he's in danger?" "Because of me? Did I make him fall into the pit? Or did you see me push him down?" I took the cake that the bodyguard gave me and started eating. I was so angry that I got hungry. You. Everyone says classmates should help each other. What's wrong with that?" Delilah looked at Quentin with red eyes. Quentin ignored her and quietly stayed beside me. I rolled my eyes and left directly. After falling out, I remained calm until after the college entrance examination. After finishing the last exam, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. This time, I would definitely go to Tsinghua University and stay away from these two scumbags from Delilah's family. "Ava, why did you harm me?" Delilah came up to me crying. I looked at the over 200-pound Delilah in front of me and could hardly recognize her. I looked at her in surprise. What are you talking about? You're saying I harmed you for no reason. Delilah looked at me with a vicious look in her eyes. I sneered in my heart. She just found out that there was something wrong with the whitening pills. It's the whitening pills you gave me that made me so fat. Delilah cried loudly, attracting the attention of classmates. Look at how vicious Ava is. She gave me fattening pills to eat. I used to be her best friend, but I didn't expect her to harm me like this. Delilah was crying pitifully. I looked at her coldly. Isn't it because you wanted to date my brother and I stopped you? I was just afraid that you'd delay your studies and kindly reminded you. How could you harm me like this? Delilah sat on the ground aggrievedly. The classmates beside us also started pointing fingers at me, and some video bloggers crowded in front of me recording videos. A male blogger accused me self-righteously. I didn't expect that you, a female student at such a young age, could be so vicious. Take her to the hospital for treatment right away, or I'll let everyone on the internet know what you're really like. Idiot. The reason why there are keyboard warriors is because of people like you who take things out of context. I could tell from the male blogger's face that he was a mean person. What are you talking about? I'm upright. Don't change the topic. The male blogger pointed at me angrily. Do you know what happened? Do you know the reason for her obesity? Do you have the hospital certificate? Do you have the medicine that proves I harmed her? I said word by word. You. The male blogger was at a loss for words when being contradicted like this. He looked at Delilah. Classmate, where's the medicine? Have you gone to the hospital for an examination? Delilah had been watching our argument. She didn't expect that I could defuse the situation with just a few words. It's the whitening pills she gave me. I became like this after taking them. The whitening pills I gave you were imported from Japan. You can take them for inspection. I looked down at her condescendingly. At this time, Delilah had a bitter look on her face. I've taken the medicine. The male anchor was a bit anxious seeing her like this. Delilah cried and shouted, I found out that the medicine was fake. Delilah, you're wrongly accusing me for no reason. Why don't you take it for testing? From just now until now, you've been saying that there's something wrong with the whitening pills I gave you, but you've never shown the test report. You've put on weight yourself and want to blackmail me, right? Otherwise, why don't you directly sue the whitening pill company but come to me instead? The more I said, the more aggrieved I felt and my eyes turned red. Delilah saw that everyone around was looking at her. She waved her hands in a flustered manner. No, I mean Ava replaced the medicine inside. How could you do this? I shared them with you when you wanted them at that time. I didn't even want to give them to you at that time. I didn't expect you to say such things now. I raised my hand to wipe the tears from the corners of my eyes, but inside I was laughing because I knew she had already finished taking the medicine. The male blogger sensed that something was wrong and urged Delilah, then take out the whitening pills and let's have a look. I've already finished them. Delilah shrank her neck. Finished? You said there was something wrong with the whitening pills, but you still took them all? The male anchor looked at Delilah in disbelief. I didn't know at first. I only found out later. Delilah stiffened her neck. Have you gone to the hospital for an examination? The male anchor asked again. No. I came here today to ask Ava to take me to the hospital. Delilah said righteously. There was an uproar in the crowd. You're trying to blackmail her, little girl. An old man said. Those who had just been defending Delilah secretly took a step back. The male anchor's face darkened. He had been used by others. Delilah still didn't know what was good for her. It's the whitening pills she gave me that made me so fat. It's only right that she takes me to the hospital for an examination. She'll have to pay for my recovery to my original state in the future. I sneered in my heart and looked aggrievedly at the mobile phone that the male anchor was using for the live broadcast. Anchor, you've seen it too. Do you still want to help her plot against me? The male anchor hurriedly apologized. I'm wrong. I spoke without knowing the whole story. I apologize to you. Only then did I look at Delilah. Delilah, we used to be very good friends. I know that your family didn't have much money after sending you to the private school. If you wanted to borrow money from me to go to the hospital, I would definitely lend it to you without hesitation. I regarded you as a friend, but you treated me as an ATM. And you even tried to ruin my reputation in public. Would you be satisfied if I couldn't go to college? I said while crying. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. It's the medicine you gave me that made me fat. Delilah was a bit flustered seeing that no one was helping her. There are many reasons for your weight gain. Why do you insist that there's something wrong with the whitening pills I gave you? Then you can directly sue the manufacturer of the whitening pills. Why do you keep targeting me? I asked her with red eyes. The male blogger also stood on my side. That's right. You're trying to blackmail for money. You said there was something wrong with her medicine, but you don't have a test report. You just open your mouth and say that others have harmed you. Delilah was sweating profusely from the argument and fell to the ground. The people around quickly took another step back, afraid of being blackmailed. Zephyr pushed his way through the crowd. I'm sorry. My sister is under too much pressure and is a bit out of it. I'm sorry. I'll take her away now. Wait a minute. I stopped them. Your sister just wrongly accused me like that. Is it okay just to say sorry? What if she says I'm the one who harmed her again tomorrow? It's you, Delilah shouted. Then what does classmate Ava want so that you'll let my sister go? Zephyr asked with a helpless look in his eyes. Can't you talk properly? If you can't, sew your mouth shut. It's your sister who wants to blackmail me. You should ask your sister why she's doing this to me. I frowned as I looked at the two siblings. These two siblings probably aren't good people. It's already good that others don't pursue the matter. But they still try to smear others when they're leaving. The old man saw through Zephyr's little trick at a glance. Everyone present heard your sister just say that I was the one who made her fat. You should know that, right? I looked at him coldly. Zephyr nodded. So if I take your sister to the hospital for an examination and it turns out that it's not the problem of the whitening pills, you two have to make a video to apologize to me. I said in a cold tone with an air of authority even without getting angry. Zephyr's face turned ugly when he heard that. No need. I'll apologize to you now. That won't do. Many people knew about it when this anchor was broadcasting live just now. If this matter isn't cleared up, what if you make an issue of it again in the future? What am I supposed to do then? After saying that, I took a step back and looked at the two siblings with a frightened look. The male anchor heard this and also spoke up for fear of being scolded by his fans. I agree. I'll go to the hospital with you. In the end, Zephyr couldn't refuse and had to go to the hospital with us for the examination. The results came out. The report said that the obesity was caused by endocrine disorders and had nothing to do with the whitening pills at all. The siblings from Delilah's family had gloomy faces. The male anchor, in order not to be scolded, recorded an apology video for them. That apology video became a hot search topic in less than 3 hours. I took a look at Delilah's dejected look and sneered coldly. From now on, even if she had medical skills, she couldn't become a forensic doctor anymore. I thought that after this incident, Delilah should hate me to the core. I didn't expect that she was so thick-skinned. Delilah knelt in front of me crying, Ava, I was wrong last time. It was my father who threatened me. I know I'm wrong. I accept your apology. I said indifferently. Delilah was stunned for a few seconds. She had already thought of 10,000 words of excuses. She didn't expect that I would forgive her so easily. Delilah was secretly happy and said, Ava, I knew you were the nicest to me. My father asked me to drop out of school and work. I don't want to. Ava, you're the only one who can help me now. I can't help with this. If you've been admitted to a university, then go and study. If you haven't, I can't do anything about it either. I pretended not to understand her implication. I've been admitted to a second-tier university. You know that I want to study medicine. Delilah said pitifully. A second-tier university can also offer medical courses. If you want to change schools, you can upgrade from a junior college student to an undergraduate and then take an exam to enter a 985 university. I analyzed it for her with an innocent and kind look. Delilah's eyes were full of anger, but she didn't dare to vent it on me. Isn't your mother a medical professor at Peking University? If she gives me a quota, I can go to Peking University to study. Delilah looked into my eyes and said gently. I smiled slightly and didn't say anything. Delilah saw that I was smiling and took my hand, acting coquettishly. Ava, please help me. Who do you think you are? I said coldly. Delilah didn't expect that I would suddenly change my attitude. What? Why are you so thick-skinned? You set me up and still dare to come to me for help. I shook off her hand, sat on the sofa, and looked at her coldly. Delilah also understood that I wouldn't help her. She gave me a vicious glare and left. The next day, Zephyr came to pester me. I was speechless. It was kind of me that I didn't ruin them completely, but they kept coming to me without knowing what was good for them. I couldn't bear it anymore. Ava, last time when I confessed to you, I understand what you said now. Please give me a chance. Zephyr said affectionately. Sorry, I don't like you. Please don't bother me. I felt sick when I saw his hypocritical look. Ava, just give me a chance. I'll prove it to you. Zephyr's deep and sticky voice sounded as if he thought he was so charming. How will you prove it? I wanted to tease him a little when I saw him like this. You go to the same university as me. I'll buy you breakfast every day. Zephyr thought that I was interested in him. It was really ridiculous. You want me to go to a second-tier university with you? I asked. Zephyr thought that I was touched. Yes. I'll take good care of you. Are you and Delilah both as thick-skinned as a wall in your family? You're such an overconfident guy. I said. Why are you like this? I really care about you. It'll be more convenient for us to develop our relationship if we're in the same school. Zephyr looked at me affectionately. I sneered. Originally, I thought I wouldn't pay attention to others, but since he came to disgust me on his own initiative, then don't blame me. Uncle Jonathan, see the guest out. Don't let such nobodies in casually in the future. I picked up my coffee and took a sip slowly. Then I took out my mobile phone and sent a message. Finally, I had a peaceful period of time. I happily prepared the things for going to university. I looked at the gate of Tsinghua University and a sense of freshness welled up in my heart. This was my regret in my previous life. Ava. A cold and magnetic voice came over. I saw a familiar person. Quentin, why are you here? I'm going to Tsinghua University. The corners of Quentin's mouth turned up and his eyes were full of twinkling stars. I was confused. In my previous life, Quentin went to Peking University. Why did he change to Tsinghua University? I heard that you were going to take the exam for Peking University. Why did you change? Because the person I like is at Tsinghua University, so I came here. Quentin's bright eyes looked straight at me. Isn't your dream to go to Peking University? Is it worth it for an uncertain person? I asked. It's worth it. Because she's my lighthouse. I didn't change my destination, but I can't live without the lighthouse. Quentin said with a doting look. What if your lighthouse doesn't want you? I looked at the road and sighed. Then I'll always follow her and won't disturb her. Quentin said calmly. I smiled slightly and walked into the campus. The next time I heard about the siblings from Delilah's family was in the classmate group. I heard that they were being chased by debt collectors and didn't go to university. Zephyr was working as a bricklayer on a construction site, and Delilah was married to a foreman by her parents. I just smiled and clicked on "Do Not Disturb" for the messages in the group. The scar-faced man really had the guts and easily dealt with Delilah's family. The wicked will always be punished by someone even worse. When I looked up, I saw the afternoon sunlight gently shining on the ground outside the window. Quentin was waiting for me gently. Some people say that university is a new beginning for a person, while for me, it's a rebirth from the ashes.